Hey, it's Show Me Your Setup, episode Ocho. In today's episode, we're going to be exploring my setup, my workhorse, my daily driver, the thing that I sit at in front, or rather behind, all around, am surrounded by, the gear, the tech, the setup that I use to work. This is episode 8. I'm Dan, he's Josh, and we're going to tell you all about my gear, because this is that long-awaited tour of my setup. Questions? Comments? Show me your setup podcast at gmail.com. Send us your questions. Send us your thoughts. Send us your setups, and we'll feature you on our show. Maybe, if it's cool enough. Or even if it just does a really good job, because my stuff ain't cool, it just works. At least it works for me. And that's kind of the key of a setup, really. You want it to work for you. You want to make it so that you're comfortable, and you can do whatever you want to do when you need to do it without moving too far.
As we give folks an overview of your setup, show them everything that's involved, maybe we could talk about how you use it, just kind of an overview of what you do during your workday. I think the side-by-side monitor setup is kind of the eye-catcher. You have one in kind of a regular horizontal orientation, and then your monitor to the right is a smaller monitor, and it's arranged vertically on an arm. How does that monitor come into play throughout your day?
That's a good question. So for audio, I frequently edit with my script on the left side and my primary audio editor, which is Adobe Audition, right in front of me. So again, I'm not using the right monitor because the script is to the left of Audition. Periodically, I'll move it to the other side because I don't want to be staring to one side for too long because of neck strain. So then, boom, I can be working on the other side, still with the audio right in front of me.
But generally, you have the script and the editor interface on the same monitor?
Yes, I do, because my monitor is exceedingly large.
Yeah.
I say exceedingly because it's a 32-inch curved monitor. It's a very big monitor. Yeah, if I was on a 24-inch monitor, then I would probably be using side-by-side or top-over. But once I got this really big monitor, I added the also curved vertical monitor on the right, just for a little extra space, but I don't always use it.
I'm looking at your microphone in the photo.
Yeah, this is the Electro Voice MC200. This is a cardiodynamic microphone. It does not require power. So I have a number of microphones available to me. I have some Shure SM58s, SM57s. I have a Shure Beta 58. I have a Realistic. These are all dynamic microphones. The reason I use this particular microphone is because in practice it seems to pick up my voice better than the others. Every microphone's a little different. Everyone's voice is a little bit different. A good microphone is one that captures your voice accurately, as opposed to adding coloration, effect, changing you into somebody that you're not. You know, everyone can get a microphone and get that proximity effect and be like, hello, I am the voice of God, or something along those lines. But if the microphone's doing all the work or the processing's doing all the work, and then in real life people meet you and they're like, wow, you sound nothing like you sound like in the... That's because you're letting the hardware affect or color the sound of your voice.
That's never been your personal style, to really alter your voice in such a way that you described.
Only when I'm doing particular messages on hold announcements for certain key customers. But no, it has not been my style.
Folks that follow the podcast might know that you're also a voice talent. You don't just edit audio, but you record audio with your voice. You're paid for it. But tell folks the difference between this station that you're showing today and your pro vocal booth that we've shown in a previous episode.
Well, this workstation is in an office on the second floor of a garage. So as far as soundproofing goes, we have good insulation in the walls, double pane glass in the windows, but that's about it. Outside noises will come through. Ambient noises in the other room will come through. People running around downstairs and slamming doors will come through. In the vocal booth downstairs, that was designed to negate all of that outside noise. And we're not going to go into the construction of that at this point in time. Let's just say that it was designed to keep outside noise out, and within the space to keep reflected noise down.
So you and I appreciate good quality audio, even in work meetings, even in virtual video conferencing. So that's kind of why we enjoy having good set of headphones, good microphone. It's pleasing to us, and we think it's pleasing to the people that we meet with, right? That's kind of the bottom line on all this.
Sure. We know that they can hear us properly because our microphones are decent and turned up. And we can hear them properly because we're wearing good headphones. We don't know if they can hear us properly because usually some of them are through the tinny little speakers on their laptop. A lot of them refuse to put on headphones. Don't know why. Some of those that do wear headphones are wearing tiny little earbuds, which don't have any low end whatsoever. And that's okay for them.
So we've talked about your Electro Voice MC200. That's what you're recording on now. Later in the episode, are we going to hear from your other microphone?
Anything's possible. One never knows.
Okay.
But through the magic of editing, it could happen right now. Randy Macho Man Savage. All the time, brother. That's what I'm talking about.
Elizabeth!
Ooh, I feel red and warm. So yes, when I want to get really heated and excited, I put in the old MXL 990. Is it the 990? It is. It's the 990. So the MXL 990 is a condenser microphone. Condenser microphones require 48-volt phantom power, which, conveniently enough, the Scarlett Solo provides.
It's so much more sensitive. I'm hearing all the mouth noises. I'm hearing all the clicks. Wow.
All of it.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So this would be what we would use if we want to do ASMR of hot coffee drinking. Versus, the old Electro Voice MC200, which is not as sensitive. Which is good for meetings when I'm in, maybe there are people in the house doing dishes or something, and we don't want to pick that up. I would use a less sensitive microphone. Because if you were sitting in front of some kind of an MXL, like a V67i or something, and somebody started doing dishes in your house, it might get picked up. I'm just saying. It might be a problem. Which is why we have dynamic microphones for casual meetings, but then we go all serious with our condenser mics when we're doing a podcast about setups. I get excited when I'm on a big microphone. We go back. Now we're at the MC200. What happened? Okay. Nobody even knows. Like, was I on a different microphone? Was I from over here? Over there? Did it come from above? From below? Did it just pop on the screen and then disappear? I don't know. And neither do you.
Why don't we talk about how you're listening? You've got headphones that I would assume deliver that audio to your ears in the way that you want to be heard. By yourself.
Exactly.
It's ridiculous.
That's why I wear the Audio Technica ATM 50s, because it delivers audio to my ears the way I want to hear it. Or the way I want to be heard. In fact, this microphone and these recordings that you're hearing don't sound anything like what I'm hearing, because I'm listening through the Audio Technica ATM 50s, which change it into something that I want to hear rather than what I should be hearing.
Well, who are you talking to? I'm wearing the same headphones.
Then you're hearing the same thing I am. The bottom line is better headphones yield better sound.
We've talked about your Audio Technica headphones. We've talked about your Electro Voice mic. The two things they have in common at this time is that they're both plugged into your USB audio interface, the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. And I've always admired it. I think every audio geek finds this USB interface sexy. In thinking about USB audio interfaces, before I ever knew what they were, I would plug a cheap microphone directly into my computer via the 1/8 inch jack, and I'd plug headphones in. And I remember, I will never forget the sound of the interference noise.
When you hear the fan or something happening inside the computer.
Yes, you're hearing the internals of the computer. You're hearing even the hard drive grinding away. Somehow it's amplified by plugging in that microphone and trying to get audio into your computer. Tell folks about the better way of doing that.
Rather than plugging into the back of the sound card of the PC itself.
Yes.
Why do we have a discrete, separate interface, like a digital audio converter such as the Focusrite Scarlett Solo? For all the reasons you just mentioned, we want to take that audio processing out of the box and put it in something else so that we eliminate the noise. This little discrete thingamajiggy, by being able to turn the gain up and down, that's a knob you don't have in your PC. Also, we can plug a nice 1/4 inch headphone jack into here, which is much beefier and cooler than an 1/8 inch mini headphone jack, which is what you'd plug into the PC. So you get to use a bigger cable.
You can plug in the professional gear to it. You can have physical controls. You're not stuck with for me, it was a $10 mic back in the day.
Right.
And I don't even know why I used a mic during my early computing days. Who knows? But yeah, you can plug in your professional. We all had that
little microphone. We had like the one that was on it looked like Bob Barker held it on the Price is
yes.
Right, the long
yes.
thing. And
Microsoft brand. So all of the input and output devices, namely your microphone and your headphones, get plugged into this USB audio device, and then that just uses a high-speed USB cable to plug into your computer. So you have a digital connection into your computer, hopefully freeing you of any of the interference.
Intensive. Oh, the noise that you were talking about.
Yeah.
Right. And it allows you to use any kind of a microphone. Now, some people have USB microphones, and those plug directly into the computer. This is not a USB microphone. This is a dynamic microphone with an XLR cable. I have a small collection of microphones that use XLR connectors. I can use any of those microphones in this Scarlett Solo because it also provides 48-volt phantom power should I turn on that button, which we will use when we use a condenser microphone, because condenser microphones operate a little differently than dynamic microphones. But this is not a microphone lesson. This is a studio setup tour. So as we tour the studio, we start with the camera, obviously, because that's how you're seeing me, and this is a video. But if we weren't, maybe in the audio-only version, we'll start with the microphone, which is the Electro Voice MC200, which goes down an XLR cable, which is fastened to a boom arm, kind of a generic boom arm. I think it's a Pro line. That boom is connected to my desk so that I can move the microphone closer and further away, and when I'm not using it, off camera.
And your boom arm is clamped to your desk, like to the side of your desk, so you can really get it way out of the way when not in use.
Way out of the way.
You've recently upgraded your appearance, Dan. Did you know that? You upgraded your camera to the Nexigo N940p 2K autofocus webcam.
Right?
And when properly lighted, it gives you a really, really clear, high-resolution image. What is going on with your camera stand?
What do you mean?
I just know it's not just sitting on top of your monitor. You've done something special with it. You can reposition your camera.
Sure.
Because you've built something.
Did I? Huh. I wonder why. Yes. I found that customizing my desk is a lot of fun because a standard desk isn't quite adequate for all of my needs. I found that in meetings, my camera was way too far back when it was on top of the monitor. And the field of view was enormous, and everyone was seeing all of the clutter all over my office, and I didn't like that. So I said, how can I get that more intimate feeling? How can I bring that camera closer without moving the monitor closer? So I built a little wooden rig, like a mast on the back side of the monitor that goes up and has a boom coming out from it on which I've mounted the camera. While I had that out there, I said, hey, why not add a light ring so that people can see me better? So I can turn that off and you can see there's more shadows in my face. And I turn it on and there are fewer. So that's on the same thing. And if I want, I can push it up. And now that's not really helpful because I'm not focused on the frame. And I can bring it down. I could also move it physically closer by unscrewing it on the back and moving it forward several notches because I put a bunch of little holes in there. But I think this is a decent depth.
While we're on the webcam, your webcam probably comes with a feature that lets you crop in, but if you crop in to crop out the other stuff around you, you're probably losing megapixels. So this is a great idea to keep everything in hardware, keep everything full resolution, just position that camera a little bit closer to you. Love it. Your ring light, maybe we should explain to folks what a ring light is. It's not just a bare bulb.
Well, in this case, it basically is. It's an LED ring, and I've put a plastic bag over it to diffuse the light slightly so it wouldn't be quite as harsh because you did that with your light.
But your ring light probably also has like a plastic diffusion panel on it already.
I suppose so.
Okay.
I know that it can be adjusted. I can change the temperature. I've got coldest here, and, well, maybe that's really the harshest coldest, and then there's the warmer setting.
Yeah.
And I can turn it brighter, which I hadn't thought to do before, and then I can make it dimmer. It's on the same wooden boom as the camera, so it's behind the camera on the same boom.
Perfect.
Here's an image of the backside of my computer. You can see all those nasty wires and everything. I don't see that when I'm sitting here, so it doesn't bother me in the slightest. But if I was sitting on the other side of the room looking at that, I'd want to have some kind of a curtain or a shroud to hide it all. So the interesting thing about my workspace is that my desk is not against a wall. It's in the middle of the room somewhat, at an angle. It's not even at a right angle to anything. It's just at an angle. And again, it's because it works. I'm comfortable. It has an interesting visual behind me. It's not like, what's going on there? Nobody knows. It's chaos. It's exciting. maybe.
We can see two windows. One's kind of off to your left side. One is behind you and to your right a little bit.
That's the most worrisome thing of all, is because when we're in this Riverside environment, I'm seeing a reduced square of the footage available, and I'm not aware of what's available out there.
Uh-huh.
That gives me pause. That gives me grave concern.
I love it because I've noticed recently that your video has improved like tremendously. And I know you got a new camera. And I also know that you have a lot of natural ambient light coming in from those windows. And we now know that you have a ring light lighting you up in particular. So that's a lot of light. And I think that aids in the quality.
I'm sure it does.
Your video
in
feed.
fact, I know it does, because any of the footage we've seen from the booth, it seems like it's just a terrible camera. Turns out with good lighting, it's not a terrible camera. It's just that the booth has terrible lighting, which is okay because it's a vocal booth. It's not a video performance environment. It's for recording audio. You just need to see your script and record it in a vocal booth, and we can do that, and so it's perfect. However, if we were going to be doing more video footage in there, we'd need more light.
It's something we've learned since March 2020 through all our video conferencing is that more light adds tremendously to the camera quality. So we're always going to evangelize about that because that's probably one of the last things people think about when they're going to appear on camera in a video conference. We would just like you to keep in mind adding light,
Similar
and
to
especially soft
proselytizing,
light.
isn't it? Evangelizing and proselytizing are both spreading the word.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Should we talk about the additional equipment, sometimes called peripheral gear?
Sitting on your desktop. That's what I'd like to talk about.
Here we have a screen. And we see on my desktop, on the far left, the red thing is the Focusrite Scarlett Solo. Plugged in to the right-hand side of it would be the headphones. The USB cable comes out of the back, goes into a mess of wires under the bridge. Another thing comes out. It's a USB cable going to the Shuttle Pro V2. And what is the Shuttle Pro V2? It's a control surface. It's programmable. It does what you want it to do. Why is this convenient? Well, when I'm editing in Adobe Audition, I have special keyboard commands to do special things like fade in, fade out, reduce volume, silence, trim, undo, save. But they're all over the keyboard. And I'm manipulating a mouse on one side, keyboard on the other, hand jumping all over the place. Gets a little fatiguing, gets a little tedious. I have to look down more. However, with the Shuttle Pro, I just program the buttons so they naturally kind of fall where I want them. And suddenly, the left hand does all of the keyboard. The right hand does the manipulating of the mouse. Boom. Makes life easy.
How do you use that dial, that ring, with your editing?
I don't.
Okay. All right. So
I have found that the ring is hard to program for my uses.
Okay.
It doesn't do a good job for me in triggering playback.
Right.
I don't usually scrub through audio. I generally fly through audio visually first. I know what I'm looking for, and then I hone in on it. I click in and I play. So I don't use the wheel because when I've tried to program it to, say, jump to the end or jump to the beginning, it doesn't work.
Okay.
And sometimes, programmable devices don't work in every piece of software quite the way you want them to.
So you've got
instead,
one
I use
hand
the function buttons.
You've got your left hand on the Shuttle Pro, your right hand on the mouse generally when you're editing audio. You've told me a lot about this mouse. It's obviously ergonomic. It's the Logitech MX Master Performance wireless mouse.
Yes.
Tell me about that wheel.
It's lightly weighted. And so there's a button right above it or below it, and it's a scroll wheel. When it's in the click mode, it acts like a normal mouse would.
With steps.
With steps. But when I take it out of that mode, I can just flick it, and because it's weighted, it continues to scroll or zoom or do whatever it wants to do. So if I'm in a long list or a spreadsheet, I can just, and it takes me to the bottom, but not all the way to the bottom. Okay. My point is, it accelerates in a predictable way because of the weighted wheel.
Okay.
And so I find it really fun to just like, there I am.
And it's comfortable, right? It has like a lip around the right edge, right? So your hand and your pinky finger can kind of rest.
It has a little bit of a flare out on the right side for these two fingers. But on the left side, it has this nice place for my thumb to rest. Here, we're looking at the side. So what I'm saying is that this bottom part here is a button. that gives me the, hey, which screen do you want to focus in on view. Then there are two little buttons here that are programmable in what they do. And this is another scroll wheel. So just my thumb alone can do 1, 2, 3, 4 independent actions.
Okay.
Most mice don't have that level of control for the thumb.
And your keyboard is fairly new as well. The Logitech G512 Carbon with GX brown mechanical switches. It has RGB.
It does have RGB. It's true. I like to have the full numeric keypad on the right. It drives me a little crazy when I don't have that. And I like to have the function keys as independent keys across the top. I don't want to have to hold down an extra key to get to my function keys. And the RGB part is really nice because I can program any key to any color that I want. I don't tend to use that feature very much because usually I don't look at my keyboard when I'm working. But for certain applications, if I want to program certain keys in a grouping and have them make sense, I can have those keys be those colors or a particular set of colors that make sense. Mm. You can also just hit like random patterns in the software and it'll do like a lightning effect. But again, not something I tend to do when I'm working. This is not the most ergonomic keyboard, and I've been considering a split keyboard, which would have probably, well, not necessarily fewer keys, but a different layout. Maybe sometime in the future we'll talk about different keyboard types, the pros and cons.
Yeah.
And what's the learning curve for switching from one to another. In fact, if any of you in your setup have a split keyboard, we'd love to hear about it. We'd love to see it, but we'd like to know, how has your life changed since you started using your split keyboard? Is it better? Is it worse? Could you never go back? Did you give up on it right away? We want to know. Show me your setup podcast at gmail.com.
You can also reach us on Twitter, now known as X, twitter.com/GoModPod, or the account is just simply at GoModPod. Facebook is facebook.com/GoModPod. And did you know we have a video version of the podcast series? youtube.com/@GoModPod. Yeah.
Got a laptop over there. I can pull up our show on the top monitor and the lower monitor if I want.
That's going to be a question that people are going to want to know. They're going to see that cool gear behind you and wonder what it is.
There's a Tascam CD/tape/USB device, the CD-A580 by Tascam. On that, I can take my old cassettes and digitize them, or CDs, and digitize them into 128 or maybe it's 256K MP3. Not the highest fidelity, but it's automated.
There's a router antenna up there. Is there another webcam up there?
There is another webcam up there because that's plugged into the laptop so that we can show my over-the-shoulder shots as we've done when we were doing the recording box, I believe. So another fun piece of tech that we don't talk about very often is part of the ergonomic setup. It explains why I'm wandering around wildly in and out of the frame and close to and far away from the microphone. Because I'm not using a chair. I'm not using a stool. I'm using something called a motion stool, which we'll go into more detail about after I research it. So I have a desk that goes up and down, a movable desk, because as part of the fallout after that fire back in the day, I found I had to work in the house, and I didn't have a very adequate space. I wound up working at an uncomfortable drafting table in my bedroom, next to my bed, about this much space between the two.
I wouldn't understand anything about that, sorry.
No, because you don't have an uncomfortable drafting table. You just have a plank between some filing cabinets. Whole different scenario. So, drafting table, crappy chair, uncomfortable, got an uplift desk. I said, if I have a desk that goes up and down, I can help my back and my life be better. So I got one for myself. Works out great. Time goes by. I find that sitting in a chair, even with a desk that goes up and down, sure, I can stand for periods of time, and I can sit. But there's got to be something else, something in between, because I get fatigued when I'm just sitting there, and I get fatigued when I'm just standing there. So then I looked into it, and they have these stools that kind of like move around a little bit. You have your feet on the floor for stability. You don't have to have your feet on the floor. You can take them off the floor. Right now, my feet are not on the floor. They're on the base of the stool. Now they're just kind of hanging out in space, and I'm using my core to stay from falling over. And that's part of the key, is I'm using my core. So while I'm moving around, I'm using my core.
Wow.
which is keeping me engaged
Yeah.
and therefore less prone to get uncomfortable and sleepy
And you've noticed your back feels better for it?
than if I sit in the chair. Yeah.
I guess the first question is, where's that back support? You're losing that back support. But you're working your core. You're building
Exactly.
up your core muscles.
You don't need back support when you're standing, do you? When you're walking?
Right.
Same sort of thing. Because I'm in motion, because I'm
Yeah. You're working
holding
all
myself
those
upright.
little ligaments as well. Yeah.
all of it.
All those small muscles
And
in
I
your
can-
lower back.
Twist and shout.
I'm really impressed with this setup. I always have been. I'm enjoying seeing it progress. Well, I don't know about you, dear listener, but I get inspired when I see cool setups. And if you feel some inspiration and you'd like to ask us anything, please don't hesitate to email. Our email address is showmeyoursetappodcast@gmail.com. We'd also just love your feedback on our episodes. You can leave that feedback wherever you're watching this video or wherever you're listening to this podcast. If it's on Twitter, if it's on YouTube, that's great. If you're feeling inspired, we'd love for you to subscribe to our podcast. You can subscribe to the audio version via our RSS feed. Just find that at our website, gomodpod.com, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're starting on your setup or you're modifying your setup or just looking for ideas, or if you're about to start a new podcast, we actually have a lot of videos detailing all of the important elements that go into recording professional audio for a podcast. And those are all on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/@gomodpod. And they're also on our website, which is gomodpod.com. And if you're interested in talking to someone about our business offerings, we help businesses produce their own branded podcasts to help get the word out there and grow a new audience and connect with people in a more meaningful way.